All right, now let's zip over to Massachusetts. What's going on there? And is this really a national election, or is it a state election?
No, it's become a national election because the Democrat who should have been winning very handily suddenly finds herself in a 2-point race. And we're in a situation where the Republican actually now raised, I think yesterday, $1,300,000 in one day on the internet. And I think that's because everybody in the country who wants to stop the health bill has figured out that the best place now to draw a line in the sand is Massachusetts. This is, after all, Senator Teddy Kennedy's seat. Historically, it was won by enormous margins. It's pretty clear now it's going to be either a very close race, or if the Democrat can't excite people, you could actually have a much higher turnout among both Republicans, but also moderate Democrats. An awful lot of moderate Democrats in Massachusetts who are opposed to higher taxes, bigger spending, et cetera. And so you could end up with a very, very significant number of people turning out on the stop the health bill side, and you could suddenly have this would be historically one of the most amazing outcomes in modern times.
If, let's just say hypothetically, it's a 2-point race at this point. I realize the margin of error and a lot can happen, even a lot can happen between now and Tuesday. But in the event that the Republican candidate does win, do you suspect that there'll be any sort of effort to delay the swearing in of him to try to get the health care bill vote before he gets sworn in? Do you believe that there's any sort of effort or the Democrats would do that?
Look, I'm sure that there are some very clever staff trying to figure out some technique. There's been talk that the Secretary of State in Massachusetts would hold up the papers for 10 days. If the earthquake happens, and if you have this sudden, stunning, unbelievable result, I think it would be impossible for the Democrats in the Senate, for the president, to block the seating of the Republican candidate. I think the country wouldn't stand for it. This would be an enormous shock to the entire system. If you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, I'd have said it was inconceivable. And yet now what we're finding is people all over the country are calling their friends in Massachusetts. People in Massachusetts are paying careful attention. Apparently, the Democrat lost the debate last night by a huge margin and just didn't perform or the night before last, did not perform very well at all. And the result is suddenly you have a race where Tuesday night next week, if this stays this close, virtually every politically active person in the country is going to be watching the election returns from Massachusetts. The next morning, Wednesday, if the Republican wins, you're going to suddenly have a brand new face clearly against the bill, and there will be no moral case for the Democrats to try to hold on to that 60th vote. At that point, the fact is the health bill's dead. How they would ever figure out a way to resurrect it is beyond me, if in fact they lose next Tuesday. Now again, it's still an uphill race. Every union in the country is going to be pouring money in. Many special interest groups who want the health bill are going to be pouring money in. I think you're going to see a desperate last effort by the Democrats, who do now realize they're in real trouble. But I do think that the voters may just be deciding to send a signal to Washington, and then if they turn out and they decide this is the time to send a message to Washington, that message is going to be heard very, very loud and very clear.
You know what I think is hurting Martha Coakley, the candidate, the Democratic candidate, is the $300 million paid to Nebraska. I think that's so outraged people that I think that is something that she probably wished didn't happen, because I bet there's somewhat of a backlash to her in Massachusetts because it was so appalling. It looked terrible. Even if it's always done that votes are, that things happen to get votes in the Senate, I think that disturbed people.
Well, I think there's a general sense that there is something fundamentally wrong about this entire process. When you look at all the different deals, there was $100 million dropped in at one point for a hospital in Connecticut. I assume that was for Senator Dodd. There's this multi-billion-dollar deal that affects a number of other states. You had Bill Nelson got a special deal that I think is literally unworkable for Medicare Advantage in Florida, but didn't apply anywhere else in the country, and didn't apply to any new Floridians after this year. And you go through, if you really go through the Senate bill with a fine-tooth comb, it's staggering how many special deals there were. And that's part of why this secret negotiation is wrong, because we have no idea what's in, what's out, what's been added to this bill in these secret negotiations in the White House.
Well, this statement sure didn't help, but I'm going to post the statement on Greta because I think it's so bad it's funny.